Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Beautiful Business Podcast, where I'm joined by the wonderful Simon Barbato, renowned for his incredible agency and his passion for great leadership. For those of you that don't know, Simon is the CEO and founder of leading independent brand expertise firm Mr. B & Friends, launched in 2006. Now, I said he had a flair for great leadership, and he has certainly proven himself with titles such as Southwest Director of the Year, Top Inspirational Agency Leader, and just last year, he won the Southwest Business Leader of the Year award by Business Leader magazine. But while Simon has a bustling agency right now, he has been on a great journey to get there. He has powered his way, as did many, through the COVID years, experiencing the good, the bad and the ugly, before emerging on the other side with new exciting tales under his belt, such as the acquisition of Future Kings and the launch this year of his new London office alongside the Bristol HQ for Mr. B & Friends. Simon was one of the expert panel at the 2024 Bench Press Live event, where he stirred up quite an interest from the audience, so I'm really excited to be chatting with him today about the acquisition and to hear Simon's thoughts on business development and future-proofing agencies, specifically how we need to shake up the traditional model to survive.
I'm absolutely convinced that a lot of your listeners will be feeling that they've experienced exactly the same things, where they put their heart soul into the pitch, they've done everything that they can. All of the signs were good. They answered the brief brilliantly. They were commercially a good fit and everything, and they still didn't win it. And these are the things that we as agency leaders have to take on the chin, and learn from, move beyond, and go again. And the one word I think that I can sort of probably say that I've built over the 18 years of running Mr. B & Friends is resilience. Okay, none of this is personal. It's just business. And, you have to develop a really, really thick skin and just have the energy and the sort of confidence to keep going. And it does come. It does come,
Welcome to the Beautiful Business Podcast from the Wow Company. If you're searching for the right strategies, tools, and connections to ignite your thinking and elevate your business, then join us for a fortnightly dose of inspiration. Our guests range from industry-leading agencies and cutting-edge tech pioneers to motivational speakers and executives, all offering actionable insights to help you thrive in profit and purpose. So, whether you're a growing consultancy or an agency leader, this podcast is your source of knowledge and encouragement to spark meaningful change in your business and beyond. Simon, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today. Thanks for joining me.
It's great to be here. It's great to see you again, Chloe. Fantastic introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh, no worries. You gave me plenty to choose from, so thank you very much. I'm always really intrigued to know, right? So I do lots of research about who's coming onto the podcast, and I love reading about all these amazing achievements. But one thing that people don't advertise so publicly are really cool things about themselves. So I wonder, what's one awesome thing about you that we don't know?
Way to start. I'm not sure if I've got anything too awesome to talk about, but I think one thing that many people may not know about me is that when I was a youngster, I was a really keen footballer and played at a relatively good level. And I put a lot of my independent thinking down to the experience that I had between the age of 11 and 15. And I was fortunate enough to tour all over Europe and play international tournaments against international teams, billeting in the families' houses of those opponents that we were playing against. And during the age of 11 to 15, played football at a really good standard. And then I went into playing men's football as well. And then since then, I've coached my son's football team, and now I'm a classic armchair supporter, and hopefully will be toasting the fourth consecutive Premier League title for my team, Manchester City, on Sunday. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've got an interesting weekend ahead of me.
Yeah, awesome. I was going to ask who it was that you support. So you never thought actually you'd make a career out of football then?
No, it was really interesting. I think I got to 16 years old and discovered or got distracted by girls and going out with my friends and all those sorts of things. And I do think if I'd have kept at it, there's a potential I could have, made a sort of career out of football, but it wasn't to be, and I'm delighted that I've ended up in the creative industry instead. So all good.
Well, me too, because otherwise I wouldn't be speaking to you on here today. So well done, you.
Okay.
So you are Mr. B and Friends CEO, Future Kings CEO, and Noble's COO. Is that correct?
That's right.
Right. How on earth do you manage that sort of responsibility? That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm allergic to sleep, so no,
You'd have to be, right?
well, exactly. I mean, it's really interesting. Most of my working hours spent managing and running Mr. B and Friends. And at Mr. B and Friends, I've got an incredible leadership team around me, including a fantastic managing partner in Ellie Wilson, or Ellie Kershaw now, as she's married, who runs the operational side of the business. And that enables me to get my head above the parapet and actually start looking at how we continue to sort of grow and how we continue to, evangelize the Mr. B and Friends story and our approach to things. With Future Kings, when we acquired Future Kings, as I'm sure we'll come on to later, we were really lucky that we bought a company that was 8 years mature, had a good leadership in it already, and therefore it pretty much runs itself. And that's a real sort of one of the reasons why I'm able to sort of take that title of CEO under my belt, because the actual sort of impact and the time that I have to invest in it is not as great as something that's moving at such a pace as Mr. B and Friends. And the same can be said of Noble as well. We've got great leadership in place. So I think the secret to all of this is having great people around you, grown-ups that understand the mission that the organizations are on and are able to deliver at the highest level of quality whilst managing staff, clients, and obviously the commercial side of the business as well. So that's in essence why I can do that. And I'm sure that, I might be able to take on other things as well in the future.
Wow, you really are allergic to sleep. Okay, so Mr. B and Friends is your baby, right? That's the one that you launched in 2006. What was your inspiration for starting Mr. B, and how has it evolved since you began?
Oh, it's changed immeasurably, but I think what hasn't changed is the sort of energy and the values on which I set up the business from the very early days. So Mr. B and Friends, the nucleus of it really was the fact that I wanted to do consulting work, and I wanted to work with organizations that had problems around their brand positioning, their brand identity, the way that the brands communicated and turned up in market. And essentially, it was the startings of what you would call a virtual agency, where the Friends were a black book, and black books are very, very symbolic in our company. It was my black book of freelancers, collaborators, and they would be designers, art directors, copywriters, web developers, those sorts of things. And my job really was to diagnose the problems that our clients were having, to work on the brand strategy and positioning, and then to manage the process of identity development. Now, that all worked really well for about 2 years. Essentially, I was working my socks off. I was, chief cook and bottle washer and account manager, debt collector, shoulder to cry on, and everything else in between. But what actually happened, which was quite interesting, was we became a bit of a victim of our own success, because our clients said, okay, you've done our brand work. Now, would you like to have a look at our advertising account? Would you like to have a look at our design requirements? Would you like to have a look at our event calendar and things like that, and our digital estate? And what I quickly came to realize was you cannot move onto client accounts from client projects with a freelance base. So I had to start thinking about building a team. And 2 years after I started the company, I brought a business partner in, and then we started to grow the company. And that was at that point when it started to really, really accelerate. And over the course of the last 18 years, the business has gone from myself in my bedroom to 45 full-time employees at our height to now where we are now, about 32. So it's been an incredible ride. I've learned so much, And the business has changed immeasurably. But what stayed the same was the sort of same level of energy, the same level of client care, the same level of commercial skills, which I sort of started the company with.
Wow. What an amazing journey. So you said, was it 42 at the height?
I think about 44 or something like that. I mean,
Okay.
Today in our family, we have nearly 60 full-time employees across the 3 businesses. But Mr. B and Friends in its own right was the height was about 45 people, yeah.
And was that COVID that brought the numbers back down?
Completely. Yeah, I mean, COVID was the ultimate leveler, really, wasn't it? And like many of your listeners, we sort of had a major impact to our revenue numbers, which changed the shape of our business. And that sort of, that sort of decline in revenue lasted for about a year and a half. And then we started to slowly climb out of it. But in the time of COVID, we had quite a few people leave that we just didn't replace their roles. So rather than sort of mass restructuring or things like that, it was just a case of attrition and sort of making do with what we had in terms of resources. Nice.
And still quite a large number to come out the other side as well, which is awesome.
It was. I mean, I think COVID was an interesting period of time as a business leader because it actually forced us into incredibly good decisions. Even decisions around our office and our decisions around the discretionary spend that we would think nothing of, spending on a regular basis. It just made us sharpen up, and we went very, very sort of lean in the way that we did our business. And we were able to sort of sustain ourselves during the COVID years, come out making a small profit, and then that gave us the platform to accelerate out of it in 2022.
Amazing. And when did you acquire Future Kings?
So Future Kings was 14 months ago. We acquired Future Kings.
Okay. And talk to me about that journey. Like, how did that even start for you?
Well, I've known Future Kings since they started. One of their founders is a chap called Steve Anderson. Steve Anderson and I used to work together in London in the mid-90s at a brilliant branding agency called Light and Coley. It's sadly no more, but we both did our apprenticeship there. So essentially, we came from the same school. We learned the same things. We understood the same language. We understood the same processes and everything else. I went off and started Mr. B and Friends. He started Future Kings eight years after Mr. B and Friends. And he and his business partner, Ben, and I had always sort of kept in touch with each other. I sort of sometimes enviously looked at some of the work that they were producing, and we always sort of had a really positive relationship. And it was a conversation probably about January last year with Steve and I. We had one of our regular catch-up in London. We were just, shooting the breeze. How things going? How's it going at Mr. B and Friends? Going really well. We're sort of like motoring along, growing, feeling confident. How's it going with you? Yeah, not too bad actually, but we just feel that we're hitting a ceiling. And they were around about £1 million in revenue. And I think, there's this sort of barrier which a lot of agencies struggle to get beyond in our industry. That £1 million mark seems to be quite a sort of psychological barrier sometimes, or it could be a sort of a resourcing and confidence barrier. But anyway, and it dawned on me that there was an incredible fit for what I wanted to do at Mr. B and Friends and where Future Kings was, because of the way that we were positioning the two agencies. And essentially, Mr. B and Friends works with mid-market and enterprise level clients. So, we're looking to work, at a certain level with clients with certain budgets and certain business problems that they're trying to resolve. And Future Kings are much more geared towards the funded startup and early stage businesses and SME market. And what I have noticed, because I look after business development at the agency, what I've noticed is that we were getting a massive influx of inquiries coming in from SMEs that were non-ideal client profiles for us. And we couldn't actually do a great deal with them with the budgets they had available. So essentially, I was sending them away. And, I was referring them down to friends who had smaller agencies and all sorts of things like that. And what we had was the governance, the infrastructure, the business know-how, and the leads which Future Kings really needed to accelerate their growth. And that's where the interest started. That was the initial conversation.
Keep going. How did it progress from there?
So, I could say it was an opportunist comment I made. Possibly had one pint of beer too many or something like that. And said, look, we've worked together before, Steve. This is what I'm planning to do with Mr. B and Friends. We've already got a sister agency in Noble, so we have a working sort of relationship with an agency that we have a stake in as well. What about if we look at structuring some form of a deal with Future Kings where we can bring Future Kings in and put it on a huge growth trajectory as part of our family? And that conversation stimulated some interest. And about 3 months later, we signed the deal and done an acquisition. And we'd restructured the business to set it up ready to grow.
And it sounds like a bit of a match made in heaven as well. So that's awesome. I wonder I know that culture and leadership and all of that is huge for you. And I just wonder what are the biggest challenges when you're trying to kind of integrate the culture of an acquired agency into, I don't know, would you call it a parent company? How does it work?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, Mr. B and Friends, bought a majority stake in Future Kings. So I think the biggest thing here is that what we had to recognize was two things. The first was that we had to make sure the team felt absolutely comfortable, arriving within a new parent environment, because with any acquisition, there's always going to be duplication of various sort of roles and services and things like that. And we made it very clear that we were keen to bring on every single member of staff. We weren't looking to restructure or streamline or anything else like that. We made some stipulations around Future Kings adopting our operating system, migrating from their old office into our new office so we can, be together and work together. So we made it very clear to the team, who were all very long-standing, that, we're going to keep you as a unit with your existing brand, your existing business operating system, but various financial platforms you're going to adopt and various financial processes you're going to adopt to mirror our approach. And then, you know what? We just left them alone. And we left them alone. They had a portfolio of work that they were sort of working through when the acquisition happened. We didn't want to disrupt any of that because obviously we needed them to be generating revenue as quickly as possible. And I basically did the presidential thing and sat back and said, I'm not going to do anything for 100 days. And I just had a look. I observed. I looked at the way that they ran their business. I looked at the way that they priced their project. I looked at the way that they resourced their projects as well to see if we could generate some more velocity in the team without putting them under more undue pressure. And I just left them alone, sat back for 100 days, and then we went to work with them and fine-tuned. And, the year that they've had under our ownership, the first year that they've had under our ownership has actually been stellar, amazing, produced amazing work, generated really great relationships, and made really healthy profits in a year which has been awful for a lot of agencies. So it's been a real success story for us. And I'm really proud of what they've done, and I'm proud of the decisions that we made in bringing them into the family.
Amazing. And you're still quite early on as well. 14 months is still really early on. Do you feel like the trust is there between you and everyone and you?
Yeah, I think so, because, we made some pledges to the leadership of the business. We said, these are the things we are going to do. And that's exactly what we did. One of the things was we were going to recapitalize the business and put some decent working capital into the business. The second thing that we were going to do was going to supply them with a really rich vein of leads and opportunities for them to go after, which I will add, they have closed 78% of them. They've been unbelievable. I could learn a thing or two about how they sell. And we were also going to give them the governance of a board. So the structure of a board, sort of mature them as a business. And I think that all those three things we have done. And so therefore, from the perspective of the management, the perspective of the the team members of Future Kings, they've seen that we did this acquisition with the right intentions, and we also did it by putting our money where our mouth is and our time where our promises were. So it's been really, really good. And yes, the trust is there. We've got to make sure that that we operate under great governance and things. So there's a constant learning process that we're going through. But they're adapting. They're adapting really well.
Amazing. Well, I just wonder as well. So culture and that trust, and like you said, getting the teams working are obviously really, really important. Are there any other immediate priorities post acquisition that help to ensure success?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing really is that you have to the due diligence that you do sometimes can't be as rigorous as you want it to be, and sometimes you have to sort of take a bit of a leap of faith. It's really important that you sort of you understand what the sort of book of business is that you bought, the client base that you've bought, the work in progress that you've bought, and to understand if there are any skeletons in the closet that you need to deal with quite quickly. And a few things popped out, and those things were discussed, and we saw, some things we took on the chin, sometimes some things that we managed really well. But essentially, running a creative agency, it's a relatively simple thing. And what we try not to do here is to overcomplicate our business. And so it was simply a case of making sure that they were set up for success from a integration of, moving their office into our office, making sure that the team felt welcome, making sure that the team felt part of the family. So, there was a big cultural event that we put on for them, and it was a great day. And what was really interesting is I think some of our people knew some of their people anyway, because the circle in Bristol is quite small. So there was just things like that we needed to make sure that they could get going straight away without being disrupted. And as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I can remember, I think that there was no more than a couple of days where, I wouldn't say that they were at full utilization again, because they were sort of moving and getting used to a new environment. And it's been a real working success and a great model for us to sort of look at potentially future growth as well. Because I think what had happened in Mr. B and Friends is that you get to a certain level and sometimes you hit your own glass ceiling. So it's difficult to grow. I don't particularly want the culture at Mr. B and Friends to fragment, and it can fragment when it gets to 40, 50, 60 people. So how do you sort of continue that growth journey without having to sort of have too much organic growth? And we saw acquisition or sort of joint ventures such as the one which we have with Noble Studios as a way to sort of increasing our sort of group revenue, I suppose, and our prospects and working with other clients.
And how about for you personally, Simon? What were your best and worst parts of the acquisition?
The best, yeah. I mean, that is a great question. I think the best part was the excitement of coming up with an idea and actually making it happen, and then seeing that idea be successful almost instantly. As I mentioned, I mean, I look after the business development, I spearhead the business development of Mr. B. So I see the opportunities that are coming into our inbox, and they are they're manifest. We probably attract somewhere between 80 and 100 leads a year coming in. Not all of them are right for us, but we were seeing such a huge swathe of inquiries coming from small and medium-sized companies that really wanted to use brand as a competitive advantage. And we just weren't set up. We'd moved beyond that segment of the market, and we weren't set up to do that. And there was just very little way that we could actually, make projects profitable. And Future Kings had created a suite of products exactly for that market, and they can make them profitable. They've industrialized a process into almost like a productized way of doing their business. Each solution is completely bespoke to the client, but the method in which they get there works really, really well. It enables them to come in at work for clients that have got smaller budgets and they can still create great work and make a decent margin. So that idea coming to life was one of the most satisfying things I've ever achieved in my career. The worst part of it, of course, was in the first 3 months, opening the sort of closet and going, oh my God, what's in there? And shutting it quickly. Look, is the feeling that, oh my God, we were going so well. Have I done something which will pull the wheels off of the vehicle? I'm going to get pulled into this, or it's going to be a drain on cash, or things like that. And that fear of, you've made a mistake, that was a feeling of dread that came over me. And it wasn't until we started to see the results of the hard work and the thinking that sort of fear started to dissipate. And it does take time for that fear to go.
Yeah. And how long was that for you?
Probably the first 6 months, but they had a stellar first 6 months. And we all sat back and went, that was a really good move. And they've had a stellar second 6 months as well. So they're just coming up to the end of their first financial year with us. And the prospects look really good. We're hoping to achieve somewhere between 15 and 18% growth next year as well through organic means, just with Future Kings. And we're looking to start building the capability of the team now and doing new things with them. So it's such an exciting time and moment for them.
Amazing. Well, I really want to bring us on to business development, because you mentioned that is your forte. But before we do that, just one final question, just to kind of flip it on its head a little bit. As somebody who acquired an agency, it sounds like you already knew them quite well anyway, but I just wonder, what key areas do we think agency owners should be focused on if they're actually looking to sell, to appear attractive out on the market?
I think really one of the things, and I may have mentioned this at the Bench Press live event as well, I think that you've got to have match fit financials, match fit governance. What I mean by that is have really clean books, really clean contracts, everything being demonstrable as much as possible, being able to sort of speak to the decisions that you make clearly, why you've made the decisions you have made and things like that. And when you put together your prospectus, have a very clear positioning about what the agency is and what value it delivers and to whom as well. And I think having a very strong positioning will be a really good a good asset when it comes to putting your business on the market. So positioning, clean financials, great governance, and a brilliant story that you can still grow. And I think that was the interesting thing. If I put myself in the position of Future Kings, they'd hit a ceiling. I could see they could grow. They were struggling with that, and they needed a bigger canvas and a bigger sort of pitch to play on, and that's what we provided with them. So it was a mutual thing, and I think that had I felt that there was no growth opportunities with them, or it would be a struggle, I don't think I would have invested the time or money to take it on. So I think some of those things, I'm no expert in that area. Maybe I need to be better at getting more knowledge in it. But essentially, I just think that, you have to have a great story which will be backed up by the numbers.
Yeah, I think it's just fascinating to hear it from your point of view, having acquired Future Kings. And like you said, you already knew them really well and you kind of understood them really well. But it's just interesting to see it and hear it from the other side, isn't it? What were you looking at when you were looking to acquire?
I think what I could see was a clear positioning opportunity for Mr. B and Friends here as well. This created a clear delineation between what we saw as ideal client profile and then conditioning my team that that's where our future lies. For us, the mid-market and enterprise clients is where we have our biggest impact. And we loved working on small brands. We really enjoyed it, but commercially, it just didn't work for us. We just were carrying too much overhead and weight and everything else to make it work. So, and that's why Future Kings was mutually beneficial to us as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm really keen to move into business development, new business. I I would say the new business is really tough right now from everyone that I speak to and from agency owners that I'm in contact with. But did I hear you allude earlier to the fact that actually for Mr. B and Friends, you're actually doing really well with new business? Am I right?
I mean, look, we attract a lot of inbound leads. I think when you're an agency that's as mature as we are, 18 years, we've developed really good reputation in various verticals as well. We've got really good, we've got 3 very good sort of propositions around sort of brand and employee experience and some comms as well. But the key thing really for us is that we do attract a lot of inbounds. It doesn't mean to say new business is easy. Now, that lead generation is really tough for everybody. Okay, we've got a good engine. Okay, people, we're easy to find. We do a lot of outbound work as well, and our reputation drives inbound leads into us. But it doesn't mean to say, that it's not competitive in the pitch. And I'll be honest now, I have never felt anything like it over the last 12 months. Everything has been very, very challenging. And it's been very challenging to achieve growth, and it's been very challenging to achieve success in new business as well. So, I can call this financial year a game of 2 halves. We won fair bit in the first quarter, nothing in quarter 2, nothing in quarter 3, and then a fair bit in quarter 4. It's the first time in our entire history that we've seen a whole 6-month sort of period of time where there hasn't been, solid activity which has netted in new client wins. And what I've noticed is just how competitive agencies are, how client budgets are being, are being reduced, the length of time which clients are taking to make decisions, the amount of agencies that you're being asked to, compete against, whether it's in a pitch or an RFP or just a simple proposal. It's very, very tough. And, anybody else, who's listening to this podcast, who's feeling it's just them, it's not, it's everybody. I'm part of a lot of agency CEO peer networks, and everyone is feeling the same thing at the moment. So, whatever I can share on this in the next few minutes talking about new business that may help, I'll be welcome to do so. But, it comes our way as well. We are struggling as well.
I'm just going to ask you outright. I don't know if you know the answer, but how? How do we overcome it?
I don't know. Something has to change in the country. The UK is a low growth economy. If you look at some of the sort of statistics that have just been recently published from the G7, the UK is trailing all of the other G7 members. I don't know. The country feels like it's in a bit of a funk at the moment, and it may be a general election will do something. Hopefully, if we get a 2 in front of the inflation rate, that will give some confidence to the Bank of England to start bringing interest rates down, which will hopefully sort of ease that cost of living crisis that we've had over the last year and a half or so. But if you think about it, it's been a perfect storm over the last 5 years. Geopolitical things, war in Europe, the energy crisis, and everything else has become, it's almost a perfect storm. And that, we're a service industry. We operate at the behest of our clients. And when our clients are feeling it, they simply look at what they are spending either on a CapEx level for branding projects or an OpEx level for marketing projects, and they'll start to reduce or kick the can down the road a bit. So it's having an impact on the agency sector. So how do we get out of it? Well, a leaf out of our book is you have to be always on. And that's what we try to do. So we have really great SEO strategy. So people find us and they find us easily. And we recently just given a brilliant upgrade to our website and sharpened our positioning and our narrative and given really good social proof visible so people can see the sort of work that we do and the problems that we solve and the value that we deliver for our clients. When the inquiries come in, we are rapid. Literally, we try to respond as quickly as possible within the first 30 minutes and start having conversations before any other agencies have actually engaged. So that gives a competitive advantage. And then we're starting to have different conversations, not about what do you need us to do, but we talk about what value are you trying to achieve through this engagement. And it's those sorts of things which hopefully start to mark you out as a slightly differentiated agency. And then we try to subvert the pitch as much as we can. We try to sort of move the clients away from, beauty parades or creative pitches and things like that. The best work that we do is when we are engaged with our clients and we get to have deep conversations and do research and immersion and discovery, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to sort of get our clients to think away from a pitch environment, and we use our credentials, our expertise as much as possible to try to sort of create a feeling of differentiation for our agency. But it's tough. And, I don't mind telling you, we were engaged with a really big pitch just last month. And we didn't win it. We came second, which is the worst position in the world to be. And when I took the call from the client to get the feedback, I had several very pointy questions about, what did the other agency do? How did they stand out? Did they challenge your brief in a way that we didn't? The feedback that we got, I've had that sort of feedback where people have rung me and said, you've won it, and these are the reasons why you've won it. And I, at the end of the call, I just said, look, it just sounds to me as if you should have appointed us. So I'm not sure why we didn't win this. And it came down to a fact that, they've had a previous relationship with the agency that we lost against. And so that's really difficult to take. And I'm absolutely convinced that a lot of your listeners will be feeling that they've experienced exactly the same things, where they put their heart, soul into the pitch. They've done everything that they can. All of the signs were good. They answered the brief brilliantly. They were commercially a good fit and everything, and they still didn't win it. And these are the things that we as agency leaders have to take on the chin, and learn from, move beyond, and go again. And the one word I think that I can sort of probably say that I've built over the 18 years of running Mr. B and Friends is resilience. Okay, none of this is personal. It's just business, and you have to develop a really, really thick skin, and just have the energy and the sort of confidence to keep going. And it does come. It does come.
Definitely. I wonder, was that confidence there for you though when you went through that 6-month period where no one came forward?
No, I imagine if I go back to my football days, it's like, a centre forward that hasn't scored for games, and you just want one to go in off your bum. And and that's actually sort of what happened. One just fell in our lap, and you think, oh, we've broken the losing sort of streak. And then 2 or 3 come along quickly at once, and you realise it's not us. It's just the way that things are at the moment. And the message that, I deliver to my team, I deliver to the guys at Future Kings and Noble is, so I've been in the industry a long time now, started in the early 90s, and I've seen the economic cycles go up and down probably 4 or 5 times in that 30-year career. And it comes back. It will come back. And, we will have sunlit uplands.
It sounds like patience could be the key here. I feel like there's a sort of unspoken debate that's going on with outsourcing new business, and also the use of technology with new business as well. What are your thoughts on those things?
Yes to everything, right? Our sister agency, Noble, looks after our online presence, so we are visible. So we do SEO, PPC with them and everything else. So one part of our inbound success is because we are easy to find. So we got great authority on different search terms, which we've built over the years and everything, so people can find us. So that's outsourced. It is a family company, but it's outsourced. We also have somebody who looks after outbound prospecting for us as well. And essentially, we build an ideal client profile or a set of ideal client profile personas, and that person sources and finds the list, and then we create a series of campaigns. And that is slow burn, really slow burn. But for the budget that we have, it actually represents really good value for us, because I believe, there's going to be thousands of people who may be clients for us, whether they're marketing directors or employee experience directors, who won't know Mr. B and Friends. So just having our name in their inbox or, visible to them is really important to us, because we may not hit them at the moment, when our email arrives in their inbox, but at some point they may have the need for an agency and they may have a need for a review. So, and Mr. B and Friends as a brand name is quite memorable as well. We do get a lot of comments about that. So we are absolutely fine with using outsourcing to do some of the work, but essentially this is a peer-to-peer sale. This is a human, intervention, and we're never going to take that away. So we try and, get in front of prospects as quickly as possible and start to build relationships. And we do that by responding to inbounds, or we do that by networking, by turning up at events, by asking for introductions from existing clients and things like that. And also, being a active citizen in our city, which is now Bristol and London. So I think all of those things, and being visible and, being always on, whether it's digital, outsourced, in person, or owned by us, it's really important that there is the foot is hard down on the gas all the time.
Yeah, it definitely. I think visibility is a theme that keeps cropping up there, isn't it? Just always being there, always being on the scene, as you say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I saw something on an industry report the other day where CMOs couldn't name more than 5 agencies, and that's unbelievable. I think in a way, some of us, we sort of believe our own hype. We've been drinking our own Kool-Aid and think our agency name is famous and our strapline. I've got mine behind me. People know what it is and what it means, but essentially clients are time poor. They are being constantly targeted by new business people from agencies like ourselves, and you've just got to be in the client's radar at the right time. And that's why I think having somebody dedicated to doing outbound and doing it, constantly is really, really important, because, as I said, the chances of actually sending an email, it landing at the moment where the client's thinking, you know what, I'm just about to do our brand strategy. Wow, this has just turned up. What a coincidence. The chances of that is very, very slim. So it's just about making sure that there's visibility and persistence in what we do.
Well, thank you for clearing that up, because like I say, I feel like it is a bit of an unspoken debate. I know some people are really for it and then others are really not finding the benefit of it. So definitely sounds like it can be used in the right way.
But not exclusively. I think it has to be something that is an addendum to your existing activity.
Excellent. So I'm really keen to move into agency models and how we can think about shaking up the traditional agency model, because I know you've got some really progressive thoughts on this, Simon. So I know that there's lots of factors to think about when we think of kind of the future of agencies and models and what they look like. What are your thoughts on how it needs to change as we go forward?
Okay. This is a really great topic, and I'm going to be very honest. I'm at the start of this journey. Okay, so I have been immersing myself in the wisdom of various commentators, consultants, and people that are leading the charge in this. But I think I'm going to answer the question by telling you a story. Okay, if it's okay.
Please do.
In 1991, probably before you were born.
No, thank you so much, but really not quite.
My first job at the integrated division of Abbott Mead Vickers. It was an agency called McBain Noel Johnson, and I joined as an account exec. And I was given 3 brilliant accounts to work on: Labatt Spears, Delta Airlines, and IKEA. You couldn't wish for a better start. And I remember very early on, probably 2 or 3 weeks in, I took a phone call from the brand manager at Labatt Spears. He said, "I understand you're our new account exec. I've got a brief for an out-of-home campaign." And I listened intently, wrote as much as I could about what the requirements were. And then she faxed over and It was a fax. She faxed over the brief. My actions that day was I went to the production department, sat down with the production director. I said, right, this is the brief. And we sat down and worked out how much time would be required from the planning team, how much time would be required from the creative team, production team, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially, the way in which I put the proposal together, I simply capitalized the rate card for each person. About 4 weeks ago, I had a conversation internally here about a deliverable that a client wanted. And that was exactly the same process that happened. And what's really interesting is that pretty much every single industry that I've been involved in, and I've been involved in lots of different industries over the 30 odd years that I've been working in this sector, learning about how their business operates, learning about how they make money, how they operationalize their business, and how brand and marketing, affects them. Every single industry has gone through major change. And I'm looking at our industry and thinking, wow, we are operating a model which is archaic. And what's really interesting about the model that we're operating is it's the model which commoditizes our own brilliance, because essentially all we are doing is equating our time for money. And our time and money should not equate the value that we deliver to our clients. And that's why I think we've got to do something to change it. So that's why I've been on a sort of a mission of educating myself of what are the problems that we're trying to overcome in our industry? What are the potential models that we could explore moving forward? And how would Mr. B and Friends transition to that? Now, what's really interesting is when we acquired Future Kings, and sorry, I'll come back. The answers appear to be productization is a really big play. Okay, how do you productize something? How do you discuss outcomes and values, not inputs and efforts? And then you appropriate pricing in that way. Now, what's really interesting is Future Kings arrived with us with productized models. They don't pitch for anything. They have a fixed price, a fixed scope for a fixed deliverable, and they do it with a fixed team. And what's really interesting is they can control the process, they can control the inputs and outputs, and they also control the margin. And that has shown me that potentially Mr. B and Friends needs to start looking at that, but on a larger scale for enterprise clients and mid-market clients. So that's the journey that I'm on. That's the education I'm going through at the moment. And I've got a session next week with our strategic advisor who's going to be sort of talking to us about the potential. I've attended every single seminar that I can. I've listened to Robin Bond talk about it, Caroline Johnson talk about it. I went across to Lake Tahoe, and there was a Tarn event, and there was a consultant there talking about it as well. And I've read the Madison Avenue Makeover and listened to Michael Farmer, and everything is pointing to the fact that our industry needs to change. And I think with the advent of AI coming in, the billable hour is going to be something that is going to be incredibly hard to justify when you're using technology, and large language models and things like that. So it's going to fundamentally change our business, and we have to do something to shift the needle forward for ourselves. And the key thing here, right, is that if I'm able to productize or package up value and outcome-based solutions for our clients, that starts to differentiate the way that we do our own business. And in a pitch environment, if we're pitching against 3 other companies that are still time and materials basing, their solutions on, and we are not doing that, we become a slight market of one. They either buy us or they don't buy us. But we're certainly differentiating ourselves. So this is this sort of journey which I'm starting. I'm by no means an expert, but I'm happy to talk about all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It does sound super fascinating. When you say that you'll definitely be differentiated, which, yeah, you clearly will be, do you think that's a positive differentiation?
Well,
for most?
Yeah, this is a scary thing. I think that there's going to be 2 major risks as part of transitioning a business away from our old traditional agency model into, new model. The two risks are going to be internal. One, which is, can we unlearn what we've learnt over the last 30 years? And I've been in the industry for 30 years. Some of my senior leaders have been in the industry for 20, 25 years. And we've all got that that traditional model ingrained in us. Our client services team, we have a software package that promotes conversations around hours and rate cards. That's what it does. It asks you, how many hours, what's the rate card? That's how I'm going to work out, pricing and compensation for the work that we do. So there's going to be a process of unlearning, and we're going to have to sort of, do this very, very carefully. And then the second part of it is that how will a client be able to benchmark us against? If we refuse to have a rate card and we don't talk about hours and inputs and effort, and we talk about outcomes and value and results and impact, and this is the price that we're going to charge you for that, it's very difficult for them to see how they can benchmark us, certainly where procurement is involved. So we've got to navigate that risk as well, where we simply become unbuyable because people don't get us. And that's the education process that we've got to go through in perfecting our pitch, really, our proposition, and making sure that people see us as meaningfully different, enabled around their business success, not ours, and making sure that we are fairly compensated for it, and that the client feels that that compensation is worth the value that we're going to deliver to them. Now, there's always going to be business as usual stuff that you can't apply that to, and we get that, we understand that. And that's always going to be operationalized stuff or rollout and things like that. But I'm talking about when we're doing, projects which deliver intellectual property to our clients, strategy, identity, major thinking around employee experience. And we've got to be much better at demonstrating the commercial and cultural value of our work into those organizations, so the conversation does change. It's not about what we do, it's about what we're going to be focused on delivering. And that's where we've got to start really sort of sharpening up. And this summer, this is going to be my project over the summer, is to kickstart this. And I think that we'll probably start to change the face of the agency one client at a time, or one pitch at a time. I'm convinced we're going to lose quite a few. But this year, we've taken the decision to really reduce the reliance on new business. And so therefore, I think that we've got an opportunity to sort of test this out and be brave with it.
In a nice, safe environment. Because I think that's the thing, right? It's when you talk about it, I think on paper it sounds amazing. And, it's obviously a conversation that a lot of people are having. So there's obviously some merit to it. I just wonder, is it the right time, in a time when everyone's struggling to price, struggling with new business, struggling to focus on the business rather than being in it? Is it the right time, and what rewards will come from it is an answer that we don't know yet, right? In most cases. Yeah,
ask me again in 4 months' time when I've lost my first one and thinking to myself, what have I done? Or whether we've been successful with it and we go, this is what happened. And I'm just really keen to try this. And, I'm keen to pursue this, because I think if you try something, that means that you're 1 foot in 1 foot out. I think we've got to pursue this, because something has to change. We cannot keep trying to maintain margins. We saw it at bench press. Margins are coming down significantly. Good measure is as an agency making a gross margin of 50%. And this year, we're heading towards 40%. A good margin, a good net profit should be somewhere around 20%. And the agencies are operating at 10% and under. And it's a really, really challenging environment. But are we to blame? That's the question here, Are we architects of our own downfall? And I'm talking collectively as an industry here, where we have allowed clients to buy us on a rate card because that's the only narrative that we have when it comes to commercials. So this is the exploration which I want to go on. I'm not going to break the agency. I think somebody made this amazing quote of, you've got to rewire the house while the lights are on. And that's exactly what you've got to do here, because you've got to reorchestrate your business whilst maintaining your existing business model so the organization doesn't fall over. And that's going to be an interesting transition, which I look forward to.
I would say, how will you know that this is the right step for you to continue taking? When's the cut off for you?
I think that so we're going to start the transition process, keeping it very tight. Our strategic advisor, myself, potentially just one other member of our senior leadership team, and we have a significant amount of questions that we have. We have lots and lots and lots of questions that we want to ask and challenge, because it could be, from, as you said, it sounds brilliant on paper. Is it a case of the emperor's new clothes? Is this just something that's, well-paid consultants are pushing because that's, in their interest to push it? I think given the amount of time that I've been in the industry and the fact that so little has changed from the business model perspective, and that there is a feeling of a potential commoditization of the creative services industry. And certainly with the advent of AI coming in and having the ability to sort of, do things at pace and cheaper and, potentially as effective, then I think that we've got to change. We've got to look at new things to try and to pursue. And so this is what I'm committing to. I want to pursue this. I will know that it's been a success when our agency is winning higher value projects. We are more upstream in our clients' worlds, that we are focusing more and more of our efforts on the strategic nature of what we do rather than the downstream work of what we do, and that clients see us as a true partner in their organizations. I will know it's failed if we've lost every pitch that we've gone for, and that clients are saying it just doesn't fit for the way that we want to do business with you. So these are we've got to go through a due diligence phase over the summer to make sure this is the right thing for us to do, because I've got 30 odd people to protect their livelihoods and keep the business healthy and sustainable whilst we think about this. But we've also got to sort of look to the future as well. How do we grow? Because we've got to step up. And that's what Mr. B and Friends has been doing for the last 5 or 6 years. Each year we have stepped up, more challenging briefs from clients, bigger organizations that we're working for, doing more international work, hiring better staff, staff which have got better ideas and bigger ideas and things like that. So we've been stepping up, but we're still not at the sort of top table with other agencies that we have such respect for. So we've got to keep on that journey. And I think that this is a progression that I'm really delighted to be able to take.
Yeah. And I just wonder as well about the team, and like you said with the culture earlier, and that being so important. And you also mentioned about resilience earlier and how important that is. What is your plan for staying focused and motivated? Because you said that there will be pitches that you lose because of this. So what's your plan for your resilience throughout the next summer period?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, if any agency, leader has got through the last 5 years, I'm not sure we can take any more. It's like, the skin is as thick as it gets, right? Okay. And I think that we're all battle worn and we've got the scars to prove it and everything. And just sort of like sharing war stories with those at Bench Press was really interesting to see that, the amount of optimism and resilience that was on display that day was incredible. I thought the event was amazing. I thought you did a fantastic job as well, Chloe. But the interesting thing is the resilience is there. As I said before, I've got this incredibly privileged position at Mr. B and Friends where I've got a team that is running the business, and I've got incredibly talented strategy team, incredibly talented creative team, incredibly talented client services team, all of which are keeping the lights on, business as usual going and everything else. And this is something that I can start to do, as a project to start with, do all the due diligence, do the testing, do the modeling, and how do we sort of show up? How do we turn our story into something completely different? And I've gathered sort of like a war chest of different reference material, which I'm pulling on, and different inspiration I'm getting, plus also the advice of external parties. So all of that is going into the sort of top of my funnel, and we're going to start to sort of try out this, in a pitch when it feels like this would be the right way to do it, and we'll go and see how we go. But I do think that I don't think I can say I'm going to try this, I'm going to pursue this, because if we don't achieve success on the first attempt, we'll work out why, what happened, what went wrong, and let's fine tune. And that's what I think that somebody meant by saying you're rewiring the house while the lights are on, because we have to keep the machine moving.
There'll be an opportunity to learn regardless, but I can see how passionate you are for it. So, and I feel like that's half the battle sometimes, is getting focused, being passionate about it, and putting everything into it is half the battle of winning.
I think so. I've got to believe in it, because as a leader, you have to have vision, and you have to have belief, and you have to have the stamina to see things through. And it's really important that I'm committed, and as I said, I'm going to pursue this. So we're going to see how it all pans out over the next 3 months, and we'll have another conversation about it.
Absolutely, I can't wait. Before I let you go, I have to ask. I ask this all the time on every episode. What does beautiful business mean to you?
Okay, great question. I went into this industry to make an impact with the clients that engage with us. So making an impact for me is really important. And I think what's really interesting about what we do at Mr. B and Friends, brand is our sort of our wheelhouse, really. I started in advertising, and advertising is a very transactional thing. Brand is a very strategic thing. It's relational. And, if we're working with a investor-led organization, we can change, through the work that we do, we can change the fortunes of companies, of people's. We can change the employees' experience of working in there. So for me, the first thing really is about making a huge impact. That for me is really important. The second part, though, is to make really meaningful relationships as well. And I've loved making relationships. It's in our name, Mr. B and Friends. It's about sort of that long game, always playing the long game. And so I have relationships with people that I used to work with in London in the 90s, and they still come back, or they still refer us, and they remember the work that we did for them, or the impact that we had for them. So that's really great. But some of my clients are now some of my best friends as well, which is really, really lovely. Giving people an amazing place to work, and making sure that our employee experience is fantastic. We've invested a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a lot of money, I will say as well, in developing our employee value proposition. And I think that that's what marks us out as a great agency, as a great employer, as an organization that really cares about their people, and having fun. This is a great industry to be in. I feel unbelievably privileged that I found myself in this industry, because I never ever thought that I'd find myself in this game. And it's fun, it's great. And we aim for every single meeting we have with our clients to be the best meeting that they have that week or that month, and to bring good energy, and to sort of like do things for others that they can't do for themselves, and all of that should add up to a really enjoyable sort of like organization. So for me, that's it. And if we can make some money along the way, fantastic as well. That would be bloody amazing. But no, I think that financial success is a result of investment in everything else, everything before it. It comes as an outcome of that focus and that quality. So that's what beautiful business is for me.
Wonderful. And you've certainly brought some incredible energy today. So thank you so much, Simon. It's been so lovely to chat with you. I wish you all the best of luck in your ventures, especially with your shaking up the agency model. I can't wait to hear about it in the future. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Chloe. It's been a real pleasure, as always. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Beautiful Business Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please remember to subscribe and leave us a review. For more advice and practical tips on what it's really like to build a beautiful business, visit our content hub at wowco.uk/hub or check out the link in the show notes.